What happens when a beloved morning TV host decides to put one of the world's most controversial royals on the spot live? You won't believe what happens when Prince Harry sits down with Lorraine Kelly expecting a friendly chat. Instead, he faces the most brutal interrogation of his media career. This isn't another celebrity interview gone wrong. It's a meltdown that left viewers across the country glued to their screens. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and drop a comment. You won't want to miss how this simple morning appearance turned into utter television chaos. The atmosphere in the ITV studios crackled as Prince Harry walked onto the familiar Lorraine set, his nervous smile already showing strain. What should have been a routine promotional appearance for his latest charitable venture was about to become a masterclass in how quickly live TV can spiral out of control. Lorraine Kelly, known for her warm Scottish charm and usually gentle approach, was clearly prepared for battle, and Harry walked straight into it. "Prince Harry, lovely to have you back," Lorraine began, but there was an edge to her voice that regular viewers noticed instantly. The cameras caught Harry shifting in his chair. His media-trained instincts told him something was off. "There's been quite a lot of chatter about your recent comments on the Commonwealth and the monarchy's role," she said. "Some might say you've been selective with your criticism." Harry's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but his practiced smile stayed. "I think it's important to have honest conversations about difficult topics," he replied, his familiar defensive undertone coming through. That tone immediately put viewers on edge. Controversy was clearly brewing. "Honest conversations," Lorraine echoed, leaning forward. "But some people wonder why those conversations flow in only one direction. You've been vocal about the institution's failings, yet remarkably quiet about your own role in some questionable decisions. Take the Oprah interview, for instance. Some claims there have been disputed." The studio seemed to grow colder. Harry's smile faltered for a second before he recovered. "What Meghan and I shared was our truth," he said, "and I stand by every word." His voice carried a clipped, aristocratic cadence he usually tried to suppress, a sign his composure was fraying. "Your truth," Lorraine repeated, sharpening her Scottish accent. "That's an interesting phrase, because surely there's just truth. Facts. Either something happened or it didn't. Either someone said something or they didn't." She let the words hang like a challenge. When your truth conflicts with everyone else's recollection, it starts to look less like honesty and more like... "More like what?" Harry cut in, his practiced warmth giving way to something colder and more volatile. "Please, Lorraine, finish that thought. I'm fascinated to hear what you really think." Lorraine didn't back down. If anything, Harry's challenge energized her. "More like a very public temper tantrum from someone who didn't get their way," she said. "You left the royal family seeking privacy, yet you've courted publicity ever since. You complained about media intrusion while signing multi-million-dollar deals with Netflix and Spotify. You criticized your family's handling of mental health while airing private conversations on international TV. The studio audience fell silent. Camera operators scrambled to capture every micro-expression as Lorraine's words landed. Harry's hands, once relaxed, clenched into fists. The image of the reformed royal began to crack. "You have absolutely no idea what you're talking about," he hissed, his voice dropping to an intimidating whisper. "You sit in your comfortable studio, passing judgment on decisions you could never understand, on a life you've never lived, on pressures you've never faced." "Oh, but I do understand pressure," Lorraine shot back, her voice rising. "I know what it's like to be scrutinized by the public. The difference is, I don't blame everyone else when things go wrong. I don't throw colleagues under the bus the moment it's convenient." The accusation hung in the air. Harry's face drained of color except for two bright spots on his cheekbones, the classic sign his temper was surfacing. "Colleagues," he repeated, dripping with disdain. "Is that what you think my family are?" "Well, what would you call them?" Lorraine pressed, sensing she'd found a nerve. "From where I'm sitting, it looks like you treated them as colleagues, useful when they served your purposes, disposable when they didn't. The Queen, your grandmother, who gave you everything and stood by you through scandal after scandal. How did you repay her? By blindsiding her with Instagram announcements and publicly questioning her judgment on international television. That did it." Harry's composure shattered. "Don't you dare!" he snarled. Leaning forward with such intensity, security staff shifted nervously in the background. "Don't you dare use my grandmother to score cheap points on your morning show. She understood my position better than any of you ever will." "Did she, though?" Lorraine asked, curiosity sharper than hostility. "Reports suggest she was deeply hurt by how you handled your departure, deeply disappointed by the accusations you leveled against the family she devoted her life to protecting." The camera zoomed in on Harry's face as his media training finally slipped away. His eyes blazed with a fury viewers hadn't seen since his clashes with photographers years earlier. "You know nothing about what she thought or felt," he said through gritted teeth. Nothing, but Lorraine wasn't finished. She'd done her homework and was about to deploy her most devastating line. "Let's talk about the Invictus Games," she said, slipping into an almost conversational tone that felt more menacing than anything before. The sudden change in topic caught Harry completely off guard. His anger flickered into confusion for a brief moment. "Your pet project," Lorraine began, "your pride and joy. The one thing everyone agrees you got right. Except, well, there are some interesting questions about the finances, aren't there?" Harry's face drained of color in seconds. "What are you talking about?" he demanded. But beneath the anger, there was something new. Genuine fear. "Oh, I think you know exactly what I'm talking about," Lorraine replied, shuffling through papers on her desk with deliberate precision. "The inflated expenses, the lack of transparency in your charity's financial reports, the questions certain journalists have been asking, the ones that never seem to get answered. It's strange how someone who demands transparency from his family becomes so secretive about his own organization's books." The accusation hit Harry like a physical blow. He shot up from his chair so fast it rolled backward, the sound echoing through the stunned studio. "How dare you?" he hissed, his voice shaking. "How dare you attack something that helps wounded veterans? You're disgusting." "I'm not attacking the veterans," Lorraine said calmly, in stark contrast to his fury. "I'm questioning why someone who claims to care so much about them might be profiting from their suffering. Because that's what this is about, isn't it? Everything you do seems to benefit you somehow. The interviews, the book deals, the Netflix series. Even your charity work feels more like image rehabilitation than genuine help." "You have no proof of anything," Harry snapped, but his voice lacked conviction. The cameras caught every twitch, every flicker of doubt. "You're just throwing around baseless accusations because it makes good television." "Baseless?" Lorraine raised an eyebrow, her Scottish accent sharpening. "Is that what you call the documented discrepancies in your charity's spending reports? The luxury accommodations charged to its expense accounts? The inflated administrative costs that seem to match your travel schedule?" The audience was spellbound. This wasn't just an interview gone wrong, it was a public dismantling. Lorraine clearly had information that could ruin him, and Harry seemed to realize it too. His face cycled through rage, panic, and desperate calculation. "You're lying," he said, voice cracking. "This is a hit job. Someone's fed you false information to destroy me." "False information?" Lorraine leaned back, savoring the moment. "Like the false information about your family being racist? About being cut off financially? When your father supported you for months after you left? About not knowing what you were getting into, even with the best advisors in the world? Each word hit like a hammer. Harry's hands were shaking now, his composure slipping away. "Stop," he whispered. "Just stop." But Lorraine didn't stop. "You see, Harry, that's what's fascinating about you. You present yourself as this wounded victim, this champion of truth and transparency. But the second someone turns that same scrutiny on you, you crumble. You dish it out, but you can't take it. I said stop." Harry exploded, his shout echoing through the studio. Several audience members flinched. "You don't know what you're talking about. Everything I've done has been to protect my family, to protect my wife, to tell the truth about what really happened." "Your truth again," Lorraine said with a bitter laugh. "Always your truth, never the truth. The truth is, you're a spoiled brat who couldn't handle not being the center of attention anymore. When William got married and had children, you couldn't stand being just another minor royal. So you found yourself an American actress willing to play the victim. And together, you burned down everything your grandmother built." The words hung heavy in the air. Harry's face went pale, his eyes blazing with a fury that was almost frightening. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and dangerous. "Don't you ever," he said, enunciating each word, "speak about my wife like that again." "Or what?" Lorraine challenged, seemingly unaware of the tension radiating from him. "You'll write another book about how mean I was? Do another interview about how the British media destroyed your life? Sue me like you've sued everyone else who questions you?" Harry was trembling, his body shaking with rage. "You have no idea what you've just done," he said, his tone dark and threatening. "No idea what you've started." "What I've started?" Lorraine laughed, but the sound was hollow now. For the first time, there was a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "Harry, I've just asked questions, the same kind of questions you've asked about your family. If you can't handle scrutiny, maybe you shouldn't have made yourself a public figure." "This isn't scrutiny," Harry said, stepping toward her desk, prompting security to tense up. "This is assassination, the same treatment that killed my mother. And now you're trying to do the same to me and my family." The Diana reference hit like lightning. The room seemed to freeze. But instead of backing down, Lorraine leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. "Your mother," she said softly, "would be ashamed of what you've become." The words hit the studio like a bomb. Harry's expression twisted through shock, disbelief, rage, and something close to violence. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Harry laughed, a cold, hollow sound with no trace of humor. "You want to know what my mother would think?" he said, his voice now razor-sharp. "She'd think that people like you are exactly why she died. Parasites who feed on pain for entertainment." His voice grew louder, more unhinged. "You sit there pretending to be a journalist, but you're nothing more than a tabloid hack dressing gossip up as legitimate reporting." Lorraine's confidence faltered. She had provoked countless celebrities before, but there was something genuinely dangerous in Harry's stare now. "Harry, I think you need to calm down," she said, her voice losing its steadiness. "Calm down," he repeated, his laugh breaking into something wild and cold. "You just told me my dead mother would be ashamed of me, and you expect me to calm down? Do you have any idea what it's like to have her memory used as a weapon by people who never knew her, never loved her, never held her hand while she cried about the way the press treated her?" The studio fell into an uneasy silence that seemed to last forever. Camera operators scrambled to capture every angle of what was clearly turning into television history. The total public breakdown of a member of the British royal family. "Your mother was a public figure." "Harry," Lorraine said, her voice trembling now. She understood that came with scrutiny. "Scrutiny?" Harry's voice cracked with fury and grief. "Is that what you call hounding someone to death? Because that's what you people did. You followed her everywhere. You made up stories about her. You turned her life into a circus. And when she died trying to escape your photographers, you had the audacity to mourn her publicly while secretly celebrating that you'd have her story to sell forever. The accusation hit like a slap. Lorraine's face went pale, but she tried to keep her composure. That's not fair, Harry. The media landscape was different then. Different? Harry began pacing in front of her desk like a caged animal. How? Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly the same. You're still destroying people for profit. You're still turning private pain into public entertainment. The only difference now is that you pretend to care about mental health while doing everything possible to damage it for ratings. Security guards began edging closer, worried by his increasingly erratic behavior. Harry didn't seem to notice them. He was too far gone. And the worst part, he shouted, is that you pretend to be the good guys. At least the paparazzi who killed my mother were honest about what they were. Vultures feeding on carrion. But you dress it up as journalism, as accountability, as some kind of public service. Harry, please, Lorraine tried to interrupt, but he cut her off with a roar. No. You wanted this conversation, so let's finish it. You want to know what my mother would think? She'd think you're exactly the kind of person who made her life hell. She'd think you represent everything that's wrong with this country's media culture. She'd think you're a small, petty, vindictive woman who gets her kicks from tearing down people who are actually trying to do good. The words hung in the air like poison. Lorraine sat frozen, speechless. Harry was breathing hard, his chest heaving as if he'd just run miles. You know what the truly tragic thing is? He said, his voice dropping to a cold, trembling whisper. My grandmother used to say that the monarchy's relationship with the press was complicated but necessary. She believed people like you served a purpose, that you kept the institution honest, that you represented the public's voice. He paused, then delivered the final blow. She was wrong. You don't represent anyone but yourselves. You're not journalists. You're not public servants. You're parasites who've convinced yourselves that your feeding frenzy is noble. And the saddest part is that real journalists exist. People doing vital, brave work. And you've made their jobs harder by turning journalism into a blood sport. Lorraine finally managed to speak. Harry, I think we should take a break, she said weakly. Oh, we're taking more than a break, Harry replied, tearing off his microphone so violently that the speakers screeched with feedback. We're done. Completely done. This was supposed to be about veterans, about people who actually matter. But you turned it into another episode of your pathetic little gossip show. He slammed the microphone onto her desk, making her flinch. You want a story? Here's one. A member of the royal family walked out because you're a disgrace to journalism and a waste of airtime. Print that. Tweet that. Make that your headline. Harry turned toward the studio doors, then stopped and looked back one last time. And Lorraine, he said coldly, the next time you use my mother's name to score cheap points, remember this moment. Remember how it felt when someone finally told you the truth about what you are. With that, he stormed out, security scrambling to clear his path. Cameras followed him as he grabbed his coat from a stunned assistant and headed for the exit. Harry, please, Lorraine called after him, her voice thin and shaky. He didn't look back. At the doors, he paused just long enough to say, Enjoy your ratings boost. I hope it was worth it. Then the doors slammed behind him, echoing through the silent studio like a gunshot. For several seconds, no one moved. The cameras kept rolling, capturing Lorraine's pale, shell-shocked expression and the horrified faces of the audience. Finally, she cleared her throat and looked into the lens. We'll be right back after this break, she said, her voice barely steady. As the broadcast cut to commercial, the weight of what had just happened began to settle. The prince had lost control on live television, delivering a blistering attack on the British media before walking out. It was the kind of moment that would be replayed endlessly, dissected by pundits, debated by experts, and remembered for years to come.